Hi, welcome to Healing Humanity. My name is Dina, and I want to talk to you today about emotions and fear. So, at the very beginning of all of the changes that I started to go through, one of the things that kept coming to me was to control your emotions, to control your thoughts. And I can tell you, like, when I was younger, that was not something I did. I thought I was a slave to my emotions. I reacted to things very quickly. I was a yeller. I'm Sicilian, so it just sort of went with the territory, I thought. Um, and, so I was constantly in a reaction stage where, somebody would do something and I would jump on it or, um, sometimes I would feel like a victim, or sometimes I would be angry at whatever somebody was doing, or I just really just always made it known how I was feeling. Well, at the beginning of all of this, in my walk with God, and after all of the changes that have occurred in my life, that was one of the things that I had to learn how to control. That was one of the things that a lot of people guided me to learn how to control, right? Read a lot of books, read The Art of War, and none of the books that I was guided to read said, go ahead and yell at people. It's okay. Sadly, that was not the case. Um, and it didn't say, sit in the corner and feel like a victim. None of them said, um, you know, if something doesn't go your way and you don't have control over it, it's okay to yell about it and make it all work in your favor, for you, by you. None of them said any of that. None of the self-help books, and including the Bible, which to me is the main self-help book. It's the one that I need to go to as somebody who's walking the path that I'm walking. That's the main self-help book. That's the one that we've been given to be guided on, correct moral behavior, correct behavior within ourselves, how we treat each other, how we think at times. And then, as time went on, a couple of years passed and things got a little wonky. They were very, I was very afraid. And then I remember, I was living on the island in Michigan. I was living on Mackinac Island, and I remember one night just being bombarded with a lot of negativity, a lot of judgment, a lot of psychological babble that kept coming through to me, and a lot of hate, honestly, and threats. Just unbelievable threats. Now, I had, from where I came from in Texas, I went to Michigan, and in Texas, my car was attacked several times. It had been hit, and I will tell you that after 8 years of dealing with this, it was purposeful. Can I prove that? No, but the way things had occurred, I believe truly these things were purposefully done. My tires were slashed, my life was threatened. This was all in Texas. And those kinds of threats continued on when I moved states. It didn't stop. And so I had to learn, like, you know, I just had to give it all to God. And I remember I was so afraid one night. I boarded up everything. I moved all the furniture against the windows and the door, and I barely slept that night, but I did sleep. And I remember getting up the next morning and going, okay, I made it to another day. And that's when I started to really talk to God, and that's when I really started to give my whole situation and everything that I was going through, I gave it to him completely, because I knew I didn't have any control over this. I did not. And I also knew that whatever was going on in my life had nothing to do with God, although that was not the narrative that people were trying to feed me. You know, they tried to feed that I was a sinner and all of this stuff. Now, had I sinned in the past? Yeah. Did I repent for those things? Yeah. Did I think that I needed to continue to repent? No, not at all. So I knew that there was something wrong. I knew that this was more of a man-made deal than a God-driven situation. And so I had to find people, that were intelligent enough to understand what was actually happening, to see and to research and to look into truly what was going on. And thank God I have found those people, but at the same time, um, that night I was fearful. I really was. And I didn't want to let my emotions get away with me. I wanted to be able to stay in control, because that's what all of these books that I had been guided to read, that's how they directed me, to control your emotions, to control your situation, control your thoughts. Don't let your emotions guide and lead you. You lead your emotions, right? And so and at first it wasn't easy, but I think by that point I had sort of mastered that, or I was just at the beginning of that mastery, because I remember getting up that next morning, and like I said, I thanked God that I had another day, and every day I get up, I'm grateful to be able to breathe. I'm grateful to be able to go out into the world and work and enjoy my life. But that morning particularly, I was shocked I was alive, and I was grateful that I had made it through the night, because I was not sure that I was going to. And because of the threats, that I had been receiving. And so because I did, and I gave it that day, I remember standing there, and I spoke to God, and I said, God, even the devil wants to see me succeed. And like I may have mentioned before, from that moment on, my life had gotten tremendously better. Has it been perfect? No, it's not. Nobody's life is perfect, but I'm no longer allowing man's manipulation to rule my life. I'm no longer allowing, the fear that man uses as a weapon to control me. I'm not going to do it, and you shouldn't either. The Bible tells us that there's a couple passages here that I have. The Bible tells us, do not be afraid, little flock, for your Father has been pleased to give you the kingdom. And that's Luke 12:32. And I thought, well, if that's the case, and I've been out here struggling, and I've been out here, you know, working my butt off, 14, 15, 16 hours a day sometimes, most days during that period for years on end straight, just waiting, hoping that something would just pop and take off. And it just didn't. And I had to say, okay, well, God, what is going on? Because if you're giving the kingdom to us and I am one of your children, what else could this be? And the only answer is man. And that's sad. I mean, for me, that's just, it's manipulative and corrupt, honestly. Whatever systems have been built, they do not suit the needs of people these days. And I hope they come to an end. I hope that you see that whatever you've built, whatever systems, whatever programs you have, that you believe help people. I hope that you gather some intel from what I've gone through and say to yourself, does this still work? Is this still appropriate? Should we still be doing this? And if it was my family member, would I still want them to be treated the same way that this person has been treated? Would I treat my family member the same way I'm treating this particular person? I just think that these things are really important to ask, because there's enough stress and there's enough um, turmoil in the world for all of us. We each have our own. So I feel like I just sense that for us to do it purposefully to one another is just a deeper evil, honestly. You know, there's no man, with a red cape and horns and everything that's out here, making my life miserable. It's not. It's man. It's man-made that has stopped my progress, that have sabotaged all of the work that I had done, that had hacked into all of my systems and made my life so difficult. Banking systems, federal offices, just so many different pieces that had made my path that much more difficult, and it was unnecessary. It's been unnecessary. Luckily I've had a reprieve from all of it lately, and I thank God for that. But um, I just want to urge you to see things from a different perspective, to know that you have control. You have to have control. Maybe you don't right now, but you have to start looking at your emotions and realizing that in order to rise, in order to take control of your life, you have to first control your emotions. And somebody said that to me a long time ago, and I thought, they don't know what they're talking about. Like, clearly they're not emotionally in tune. That's what my thought was. But that's not the case. You know, you have to become emotionally intelligent enough to be able to control those emotions in particular situations where it requires more of a stoic attitude rather than just going off on people. You don't make friends that way, and you certainly aren't going to, keep jobs or impress people in that particular way. That's not going to happen. And if you want to better your life, and I did, you had to make sure that you control those, and resist, definitely resist the fear, because fear is, it, number one, it's man-made. Number two, it's something that is controllable because you can talk yourself out of it. I used to argue with a girlfriend of mine who just would sit in this fear all the time, fearful of everything. And I would try to get her to see the other side of it, to see that's a choice, that she's choosing to be fearful, that she's choosing to, you know, not do certain things because she's afraid of what might happen. But you never know unless you actually put yourself in those situations. And, nobody owes you anything. And that's the thing about this world, is that so many people are walking around thinking that they're owed something, but you're not. We are all here to better our own lives, to work out our own salvations, to gain knowledge, to help others. And I just would urge you to use the knowledge that you have gained so far to figure out how you can rise even higher, how you can reduce the emotional responses to whatever is going on in your life, and to just face everything with confidence, and know that you don't have to fear. You don't have to live your life in fear. So anyway, until next time, my friends, I hope that you have a great week, and I hope you keep healing.